Hello YouTube, what's going on? It's Richard, founder of Short-Term Rental University and Airbnb Superhost, and today I'm coming to you from the lovely Nosara, Costa Rica, where I intend to spend a significant amount of time going forward because of its beauty. And today's video is how you can spend more of your time enjoying being an Airbnb host and worrying less about all the negativity and things like squatters and things that we do to proactively avoid these situations, as well as a step-by-step guide if I found myself in an uncomfortable situation with squatters, what I would do. But the very first thing that I want to turn our attention to is problem avoidance. Let's mitigate the problems. Let's be proactive instead of reactive. And the very first thing that I see happening often, especially with new hosts and or hosts that are scaling, is desperation. When you become desperate for the income, sometimes you take shortcuts, you cut corners, you overlook certain things, that feeling in your gut that tells you something is amiss and I'm not really sure whether I should accept this reservation. Then the dollars and cents come in and you start to think about the money and the mortgage payment or whatever, and you just make decisions that aren't really rational. So the very first thing I want to spend a moment on here is how to remain rational and calm, listen to your gut, listen to your intuition, and some of the tools that we use to ensure that we get the right guests in our property to avoid long-term problems and things like squatters. So the first thing we do is we look for people that have prior reviews. Just like they're gauging our ability to host on the number of reviews that we have and what people say about us and whether we're a super host, we too screen our guests. So we want to make sure that they are good guests. It doesn't mean that we don't accept people with 0 reviews or 1 or 2 reviews. We do that on a daily basis. But in those instances, we always push back and ask more questions. So if somebody has no reviews, we ask them, what brings you to Jackson Hole? What brings you to Nosara? Who are you traveling with? I see you're new to Airbnb. Why haven't you used it before? Why are you using it now? We have the ability to ask as many questions as we want in advance. Once you accept the reservation, you no longer have that luxury. So go ahead and respond quickly, keep your responsiveness level high, but ask any questions that are important to you for you to gauge whether or not this is a good fit for you. And if it's not a good fit, or they don't respond, or you don't like their answers, then turn them down. We are not desperate. By clearing them off the calendar, our calendar remains open for a better guest, somebody who's more qualified, who will love your place, who will take care of it, and who won't stay an extended period of time. Another red flag is when people make reservations with one person. For me, most of my properties are multiple bedrooms, 4 or 5 bedrooms. So when I see somebody that's booking with one person, it's a little red flag, and that triggers another inquiry. How many people are traveling? Who's coming with you? We try and be very friendly about it, not accusatory, right? It's all in the tone and how you present and the line of questioning. And so we say things like, you made the reservation request for one person, but we're a 4-bedroom house. Could you clarify who else is coming with you and how long you've known them, or something like that, so that it's a friendly request. And then often we get positive responses, and in many cases we'll go ahead and accept it. But if we don't get a response, or we get a cryptic response or an elusive response, then that's a red flag and we just don't accept it. We're willing to forego the short-term revenue for the long-term wealth that comes from holding short-term rentals for an extended period of time, measured in decades, right? So we're not desperate. The third thing we do, and this is a huge tip, is we read the reviews of the guests, the people that stay here. There's a couple of tips that we have, and we want to share them with you. So the first one is Air Review. That is a Google Chrome extension that we plug into our Google Chrome browser, and it allows us to see the reviews that other hosts have made of this guest, as well as the guest reviews of prior hosts. And the reason that's important is many times somebody who's a problematic guest is a problematic guest in multiple people's homes. And if they leave scathing reviews or low number of star reviews for other people, I don't want to bet that I'm the exception and I'm going to get the 5-star review. If somebody gives 3-star reviews and is nasty across the board, and they've done so 3, 4, 5 times for other hosts, my guess is that that person's level of expectations are high, or they try and negotiate the price after the fact, or they have an alternate agenda or a slightly different off Airbnb sort of culture, and I don't want to host them in my house. At the same time, Airbnb has tried to, for just anti-discriminatory purposes, which I believe in, not allow us to see the photo. I believe in Air Review, we do see the photo, and I believe that if somebody books a request in Airbnb and you click on the number of guests, there's a little bug in Airbnb right now, then the photo most times, let's say 9 out of 10 times, shows up. And what am I looking at in the photo? I'm not looking at age, I'm not looking at color, I'm not looking at anything that's anti-discriminatory, but I can't express to you how many times I see somebody that I don't want in my home because of the selection of their thumbnail. So for instance, if it's a recent college graduate that's come out and they're a perfect guest for me, but their photo is of them, doing shots or drinking beer, and I have a no party policy, that's not congruent with the type of guests that I want in my property, and chances are they're a better fit for somebody else who has a more party-focused environment or lifestyle themselves. So I have, on occasion, restricted people from booking my reservation request, turned down cash into my pocket because of the thumbnail selection. It tells a lot of things about people and what it is that they do, and so I don't use it for anti-discriminatory purposes, and I don't recommend you do the same thing. But they say a picture's worth 1,000 words. Airbnb has started to block it, yet you can click on guests and see their photo, and also on Air Review, you can see their photo and all of the prior reviews that they've left for other hosts and what hosts say about them. So that's an incredible amount of information before you accept the reservation. And also, I want to empower you to say no. No is one of the greatest tools we can have. It's your business. You are not desperate for the money. If you turn these people down, chances are there's somebody right behind them who's a better fit for you, who might even be willing to pay more money and be a better guest and give you a 5-star review. And the name of the game here is longevity, not getting burned out, not getting stopped out, not having legal disputes, and not focusing on that stuff, right? So, turning to the bad, like what happens if you get a bad guest? You went through, you screened, you did Air Review, you wrote them about how many guests, everything sounded right, you didn't have a bad feeling in your gut, so you approved the reservation, and somebody came and now they're a bad guest, and they've decided to stay and squat. Well, that's never happened to me in the short-term rental market, but it has happened to me in the long-term rental market. And so the reason I share this with you is it's not indigenous, it's not native to short-term rentals. It's indigenous or native to being a landlord and owning land and renting that land out to a tenant. Those tenants have rights. Whether they're long-term or short-term, they have rights. And while we believe that we own the property and we're the boss and we dictate everything, just recognize that as soon as you have a tenant in there, whether they're long-term or short-term, they have rights. And there's rules and laws established, I believe in all countries, that delineate what rights we as landlords have and what rights they as tenants have. And if you're not familiar, then before you do anything, you need to become familiar. And the best way to do that is to hire a lawyer. And not a general lawyer, not the lawyer who set up your LLC, not the lawyer who helped close the transaction, not the lawyer who's in your family. Contact a real estate attorney, somebody with specific knowledge on tenant law and evictions. And I've had to do just that with a long-term case in a property I owned many years ago in Brooklyn, and I hired a pit bull of a lawyer in tenant landlord, like eviction specialties, and even then it was incredibly expensive, took a very long amount of time, was filled with emotion, and just like, I can't believe that the tenants have these laws, this is my property, why am I paying for heat and electricity, and I'd like to turn the utilities off, and all these vengeful things to try and get the person out. But those are all against the law, so don't even go there. Let's skip all that negativity. Let's outsource it to the right person who is a lawyer, and just buckle up and know it's going to take longer, and try and get it out of your mindset and focus on positivity somewhere else, and then don't repeat those same mistakes again. So the very first thing is to recognize that there are laws, you can't act the way that you would like to, and there are things that we can do, which are called lawyer up with the right lawyer, and find somebody who's an expert in this and who has your back. In each community, there are different lengths of time that a tenant has to be in place before they have certain rights, and that changes. So on this video, I can't tell you specifically what happens in your area, but guess what? Your lawyer can. So you're going to spend some money, you're going to spend some time, it's going to be aggravating, just be prepared for it. But again, this is all like not going to happen because we screened our guests properly. This is in that 0.0001% chance that somebody is the wrong apple or has come on hard times and you did all the right screening and you just are in this unfortunate situation, which, by the way, does happen and is a reality. And so if you're in this position, then I want this video to help you. But if you're not in this position, then I want you to realize just how rare it is and not focus on that and not limit yourself and your growth and your business and your opportunities by distracting your mind and thinking about self-limiting negativity. Instead, I want you to focus on abundance and how beautiful Airbnb hosting is and what kind of life it can establish for you. So, it happens whether it's a long-term tenant or a short-term tenant. The rights are different and they change. You will be working with the best real estate expert attorney who's a knowledgeable person on tenant, landlord, and eviction. That's who you find, and you let them handle it. So I hope you found this video helpful. Please go ahead and like it. Leave comments below. What happened in your case? Did you have squatters? Whatever you do not take matters into your own hands. Safety first, responsible hosting. These are critical things, and don't fear it. It won't happen to you. But if it does, hire the best lawyer possible with the right expertise. If you found this video helpful, like it, subscribe to the channel, and let's grow, friends.